Welcome to AgencyRise, the podcast where digital marketing agencies rise together. I'm your host, Chris Rudolph. I've spent the last decade coaching digital agency founders, helping them scale, systemize operations, and break free from the day-to-day grind. On this podcast, we talk about what really moves the needle for agencies: getting clients, building a team, creating systems, productivity, focus, and freedom. So no hype here, no guru nonsense. Just real conversations from the agency trenches. So today's guest is Eric Philippou, founder of Laughing Heart Media. Laughing Heart is a performance marketing leader who manages hundreds of millions in paid media and brought classic advertising rigor to modern platforms for health, wellness, and celebrity brands. So one thing you'll definitely want to stick around for is how Eric utilizes AI in creative development. So Eric, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Chris, good having me. I was like, good having you on, but I'm used to interview other people. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, you bet. For those who may not be familiar with you, Eric, tell us a little bit more about you and your agency.
Yeah, so about me, my agency, I'll caveat everything. My agency is only about 6 people. Had my own agency for only about 9 months now, maybe. And it's me and a few contractors, and they're brilliant, they're great, but we're in a super small stage. So big caveat there. But there are things that veteran agency owners get me on calls to do trainings about with their team. And so that's what we're going to discuss today, because there are things we're doing that where we're competing with agencies and we're outperforming agencies that have 250 more people. And we're only 60.
Wow.
So that's what we're going to
amazing.
discuss today, like what little optimizations, spoiler alert, involves AI. But about me, I've been in the agency world for about 12 years now. I've managed a few $100 million in ad spend as a media buyer, and I'm an old man. So I'm from the old generation where media buyers also did creative strategy. I formally started my own agency in May, Cinco de Mayo to be exact. And I've worked with household name brands, some D2C brands you guys would all have heard of and stuff. And just since May, some celebrity brands like Cristiano Ronaldo's and some healthcare brands we've worked with a lot. We scaled up really big. So we're really excited to talk about some of the systems today. And like I said, I am not some seasoned veteran agency owner, some master operator. There's a lot of those in a lot of the industry circles I'm in. I've been an employee for over a decade in the agency world, but that's much different. But like I said, what I am doing that I'm getting asked about, doing trainings on for veteran agency owners, is both the AI processes I do for specifically creative strategy and the actual creative strategy, the strategy side of it, the what marketing psychology things we look for. And like I said, because we're only 6 people, but we're able to deliver output of agencies with 250 or more people, in many cases, we actually outperform them by a lot. So I'm excited to dive into some of those things today. And do you want me to start with the AI maxing or maybe the actual creative strategy?
Yeah, no, let's dive right into that.
Yeah, so I'll dive into the AI maxing. And that's essentially what is able to get us disproportional output volume compared to some of these other agencies that are still very manual in everything they do. So I started my agency with an AI maxing mentality just out of survival. You know, we got a big client. I'm like, I cannot do, like, the only way I'm going to fulfill this is with AI. And especially at the time, and my systems at the time were already built. So I'm just, all right, this is going to be fun to test it out. We did volume at another agency I worked at where I used this AI, but this was exciting. So we did a lot of this AI, basically a Gen AI Claude prompt based like creative briefs that I'd send to designers. And it's just me and another creative strategist and 4 graphic designers, great graphic designers, by the way. And like I said, we're able to do like over 100 concepts a week. And it's really, really crazy volume we're doing. So concept is an ad concept with 3 variations each. So over 300 ads. So it's just absolute chaos. And how we do it is these AI process. I'm not going to go through the exact AI process because not everyone listening is a creative strategy person. It might not pertain to them. But basically, I did that AI first mentality. And a lot of agency owners I talk to, they've been in the agency. They've had their own agency for a few years now. They have 10 or 20 like full-time employees, not contractors. They're in a little different situation. There's a lot of ways where they can optimize. But basically, I'll back up a little more. So one of our clients, we scaled them up. They were spending 10K a day. Our ad creative helped scale them up to 100K a day. So They went, and with that 100K a day, they're very wealthy now. They're like, hey, let's find the top at a creative agency. And it was like this big agency, hundreds of employees, 250 plus, and to compete with our creative, which was not a bad move. I think it's fine. And I think we do more volume than that agency currently. We've been competing with this agency for 3 months in the same account. We do more volume. We have better results. Our ads scale up way more often than theirs and get way more spend than theirs and are hitting target revenue and stuff. So it's really crazy. And like, how is this possible? It's pretty much since I've automated very menial work. So before in creative strategy, I would manually make like 20 briefs a week annually. So it would take like an hour or two, or maybe an hour and a half, for an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours to make a manual brief. And it was, then you have some calls, then you have, lunch or whatever, you get some other work you got to do. But basically that's it. Like it was so long, took so long to do. But a lot of that brief was you just have an idea and that idea is going to account for probably 80-20. It's like 80% of the results are from like maybe the headline and the general concept you want to do, or the script hook and the visual and like the general script structure. That's what even before you write the brief in the document a lot of the times. And then you spend like another hour or sometimes 2 hours looking for the footage, but also just like typing out a brief for a graphic designer and then like sending it to them. So I automated really that part. So with a kind of a Claude, they do some copywriting. Copywriting, great. It basically automates a lot of the actual brief writing process and some of the lower impact, lower priority creative elements, like what the footer is going to say or something like that. And of course I QA it and, I take time to QA, but basically, so I was able to go from making 20 concepts a week manually in 40 hours, basically, to doing that in minutes. It was crazy.
Wow. That's
So
dramatic.
obviously it's different clients. So basically it was crazy though. I was like, this is crazy. It changed everything. So basically, but it's not about, obviously I take time to QA. I take time to make sure that it's quality and the quality is still there. So that's the most important key. It also though gave me time to, instead of just doing 40 hours a week chasing hamster wheel on the menial tasks, now I have time to do the high impact research and analysis. So it's like, wait, the ads are actually getting better now because I can find the right angles. I could really dive in. I could listen to every podcast, read every Alex Cooper SOP. He's the man. But basically, like, this is the true value of AI maxing to me. Yes, you get the efficiency on keyboard work, but now you have time to really focus on the truly biggest levers and go very deep on them. And like, that's such a luxury. I've almost never had that in the agency life. It's always just been chasing hamster wheel all week. So that was nice. Yeah.
That's Eric, that's amazing. Like just the fact that your AI and processes allow you to spend more time on like the really like high end creative thinking and like sharpening your skills and things like that. That's probably what I see, so much about, a founder talks about and then their team talks about it. It's like, especially if the agency is growing and they're in demand, is soon they're like maxed out, just trying to keep up with everything that I think, especially in this day and age, it's easy to fall behind because you just don't have the luxury of time to stay sharp.
Yeah, exactly. And that was something I actually left the agent. Like I went to the brand side for like maybe 2 or 3 years or something because of that. And we had such good results. Some of the best results I ever had were just on the brand side. Take the agency intensity and just go to the brand side where you just focus on one brand all day, every day. And I was like, I don't want to say easy mode, but it did feel like easy mode at times because, I could also impact the landing page. I could also impact the down funnel. I could also impact the post-purchase email. I could tell them what I want to say. You can get a lot better results. Like, everything about the industry. So things like that, yeah, you can go deeper instead of broader. Like I could have now I can do that at a very deep and broad at an agency level. So that's exciting. And yeah, like I said, that's the value of AI for us is the menial tasks that used to, the high effort, low impact tasks, like just keyboard work, things like that. That's what got automated. So I could spend all my time or like 90% of my time on the high impact work. So that's been very, very exciting. And what stems from that is that creative strategy, that these 4-point systems that we'll go over later in the call. But yeah, like I said, this allows us to do the output of mega big creative agencies, 250 plus people, and absurdly undercut them from a price standpoint for what it's worth. But for now, we're undercutting them, but still pocket a huge amount of profit. So it's crazy. We only have a few clients, but it's been great. So yeah, I walk through my SOPs with other agency owners all the time. Some literally say, "Hey, I wish I learned this 20 employees ago." And we laugh about it, but like, it's true. You can still apply this no matter what size you are. But yeah.
Yeah, I love Well, I can't think like this is a huge leverage point. I mean, you just think of like what you just described, but where did you start to learn about like, AI and automation? Like,
Yeah, well, my
yeah,
brother's a
maybe.
developer. He's an AI developer. Yeah, and so he always just texts me about it. Um, and I pretty much saw this like when ChatGPT started. I found I'm making briefs manually for 40 hours a week. I do realize it is a template. You do the same thing 20 times a week or however many. I'm like, this is literally a ChatGPT prompt. And this ChatGPT didn't write good copy at the time. So I'm like, let's do Claude. And that's just how I stumble upon it. Like I started seeing gray hairs. I'm like, all right, well, this so no, but you do something manually for days on end and it's like killing your soul. You're like, there's gotta be an automated way. It's pretty common sense. And look, there's a lot of people doing AI creative briefing now. It's like not even a taboo thing for a lot. You see a lot of smart guys I'm seeing on Twitter like showing their SOPs. They're great, but yeah, it's still like considered taboo, and we'll get into that, like the mentality of the AI stuff.
Mhm.
Basically, this is the main thing: is the mentality differences, and I kind of bucket it because I have a client that's a very young AI startup, SaaS startup, $250 million valuation, 9 employees, and every employee is like under 25. So it's like, and they are AI maxers to the point where, I mean, we don't do this mentality, but they do. They say you get yelled at if you work 40 hours a week because it means you're not optimizing with AI properly enough. So that's by the
Wow.
way, they're killing everyone. Like I said, their valuation's crazy. Their ARR is crazy. So they're doing really, really good work. They're getting hounded by the Sequoias or the Andreessens or whatever all the time. Like they're a serious badass startup. They're doing great work, but that's their mentality. So that's what you're competing with.
That's
I
a
get on
huge
calls with
shift
agency
in
founders.
mentality,
Yeah,
like,
but
from
then I see,
everything else.
yeah, it's crazy. And like I said, it's like you get yelled at if you work 40 weeks because it implies you're not, or if you work 40 hours a week because it implies you're not optimizing with AI enough. It's like it's
Mhm.
ridiculous. There are still agency founders who are like, hey, I have employees who refuse AI or refuse to do AI or stuff like that. Like, or they're afraid to do it because clients don't want to hear about them doing AI. But like, I kind of laugh at that. Like, this is something I was talking to someone about when I was doing my AI briefing. They were like, isn't that time theft? And I said, because other people were doing AI briefing, I was doing the automated brief. And someone called me out on it. Someone friendly called out. They're like, isn't that time theft? Would the client be mad at you or should I be mad at you? Blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, when you have an automated version of something that's just as good as the manual version, if not better, and you choose to do the manual version, I would argue the manual version is time theft. So I
Interesting.
said that to him and he was like, okay, do the automated version. I'm like, okay. But it is like, that's the mentality to have. So if someone calls you out on time theft or whatever, it's whatever it is. Yeah, the results are very good. The clients, they don't care AI or manual or whatever. And of course, I QA it with my veteran 10, 12-year creative strategist mind. So it's, you know, that's how we get good results. So that's kind of how we approach AI as an agency. Yeah, do you have any questions on any of that? I know it was a long-winded, I
Yeah.
think 12
Yeah,
minutes.
no, this is fascinating. I know, I think you bring up a really good point that ultimately the brands, like, they're not hiring you for ads and SEO and websites and landing pages. They're hiring an agency for the end result.
Mhm.
And as long as that's done ethically, like, and done well, I don't think, that's ultimately what they want. And I think a lot of times on the marketing side, as marketers, we're into, like, love all the stuff. We love all the ads, the creative, we love all those things. And we had to realize, like, that ultimately what is especially the decision maker at larger brands and organizations are more
Yeah.
bottom line of, like, what's the result? Or, like, you crush it and then the brand wants to, like, split test and, like, bring in a big agency to see how they stack up against you. So ultimately, it's a results and performance
Yeah.
thing at the end of
Yeah, and that's what I love about performance marketing. It's not office politics. It's not who has a prettier, I call it a deck measuring contest, who has a better PowerPoint deck, but you know what I mean? Like it's not that, it's the results. So that's what I like about performance marketing.
Yeah. Have you had any good mentors or people that you learn from that have been very helpful, like, along your journey?
100%. That's another reason I love this industry. It's like shockingly transparent. Obviously, I was in the OG ad leagues group back in the day before COVID and stuff like that. Kevin Urrutia, Wilson Lin, two guys. I don't think they're in D2C anymore, but they made tens of millions of dollars in D2C, exited their brands. They trained me for a long time at Void Media, like every day, intensive work. It was the best almost 2 years of my life. And yeah, like guys like Eric Carlson, like one of the nicest guys I ever met, like would, talk to me a couple times. Marty Marion, like one of the most brilliant guys I ever met. Yeah, there's a lot of great mentors, Andrew Foxwell and all the people in the Foxwell group. And like that's what I love about this industry. Everyone's so transparent. There are people I'm on calls with like socially all the time that are technically competitors. And we talk about strategy all the time. And my wife's in another industry, I have friends in other industries, and they're like, that's insane that you do that. I'm like, no, it's like the best thing ever. It's like anyway, so that's what I like it. Yeah, a lot of good mentors. And yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I think I think here's my I love about the industry that people are like even that you'd be seen as competitors or collaborating, because I think more than anything the competition is against innovation and like these platforms changing, and like I feel there's like this, we're all in this together a little bit, just because like I mean I'll just use Meta for example of like how many times do you like people lose their hair or like have their hair's gone gray because of all the disruption and changes that are that they go on with Meta on a weekly basis. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if you have experienced that, like kind of we're all in this
Yeah,
together.
100% bugs all the time.
Mhm.
There are some client accounts where like a bigger risk of bad results is like a meta bug or they get hacked or something than the actual performance, because performance is so dialed in, which is, I know, is a huge luxury. But yeah, like we had a bug in January and one client, they still haven't recovered because something like 90% of their traffic was from iPhone, and the bug, the landing page views crisis of January 6th, January 6th, the worst day in Facebook ads history. No.
Mhm.
Um, but it was like, yeah, it destroyed an account for like a week or two. It's crazy. We had a couple good creative wins recently that are getting it back, but it's still super volatile since then.
Mhm. Well, I have a question, and this is might be for a lot of the the agency founders out there probably would ask something similar. Like they hear about you talking about being AI Max and just like being all in on that, and they're looking at their time or their expertise, and they're like, I'm not the one who should be like learning this and being up on this, and but it's important to my agency. Do you think there's a case to like have someone on your in your agency that is a specialist in this
Oh
and
man.
just be like they're the, even if they're not even from marketing world, like just
Yeah.
but
So I'm not the best person to ask. Like there's a guy, and you can edit this out if of course I'm name dropping. So, but like there's a guy, Jordan Ross, who I was on a webinar with recently, and he does this, like he has a big agency, 8-figure agency, and he's probably even better at the AI maxing than me. And it's added millions to his bottom line as an agency, and he trains other agencies in it. And I think absolutely like the fact that there's a consulting industry for just AI optimizing your agency. Yeah. So I imagine hiring someone to just AI optimize. I imagine that's a huge service soon. Like people taking any business, how do I AI optimize this business? I don't know. I guess it's definitely worth doing. But what that guy Jordan said that I thought was brilliant is the agencies that do AI maximizing the best are agencies with really good like knowledge base and SOPs written in a super clear way. Because you can just imagine, like, okay, I have all these SOPs in whatever Google Docs or PDF. You can just upload PDFs to Claude or whoever now. So, like, oh, that's way
Mhm.
easier to do than like, okay, now I have to think, what is my strategy? What is my process? I got to write that all
Mhm.
out, to Claude, whatever. That's how I would approach it. But short answer to your question is for sure that probably something good. I'm not telling other agency owners how to hire. I'm not the best hirer in the world. I'm a 6-person agency with me and 5 contractors. So, it's whatever it is. But it sounds cool, I guess. It makes sense.
Yeah. That's interesting. You talk about like the still the need for like SOPs and how like AI isn't like a button that you push, but like
Mhm.
you got to do the work to have the systems, and then that further helps like to AI max your
Exactly,
agency. Is
exactly.
that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, yeah, and if you have, like, systems thinking, like, if that's how your brain thinks, I can tell, like, there you're probably much better at it.
Mhm. Well, yeah, tell us a little bit more. Like, yeah, what are some things that you found that have been the keys to AI maxing, in what you do, or like some things like things to avoid, or things
Oh,
that people stumble over?
so the first thing I do want to say is this is the biggest like objection. Though. Is Claude good at copywriting? There's no way it's better than me. Claude is phenomenal at copywriting. ChatGPT is probably great too. I mostly use Claude. I mean, like they're like this is such a crazy. They don't think these AIs can write copy that's persuasive, which to me is crazy. Chris, there are dudes right now who think their Gen AI chatbot girlfriend is actually in love with them. So yeah, an AI can convince you to buy a gummy vitamin, you know? So like, no, but it's phenomenal. Like I just ran through the SOP, the creative briefing SOP with someone today at another agency. I shared my screen and we just went through it. And like they saw the copy that comes, sorry, my dog barked. They saw the copy that comes out of it. And they're like, wow, this is phenomenal copy. Like this is really good copy. Like it's really, really good copy, especially the way I write the SOP. I have things. This is what I consider good copy. So it's pretty good there. I would just throw that objection out the window. I would throw the time theft myth out the window. But what I would do is do spend time QAing. So basically, if you have Claude make 50 static image concepts or 50 video scripts for you, and you just hit copy in Claude and paste into a giant Google Doc, yeah, like QA them, make sure it's actually common sense what they're saying, things like that. Like that's a huge thing that when I do work on with other people on this, like they don't QA it and then they send it to the designer. And it's like sometimes the copy is like really things you can't actually say. It doesn't make sense for the brand to say, or things that are just factually incorrect. You got to watch out for. After a few QAs, though, is very, very good. So just QA, no time theft myth. Just do the opposite, like what that AI startup I work with does. And that's
Mhm.
pretty much how I would approach it. Otherwise, look, there's a million SOPs out there. Every day I go on Twitter and another brilliant person in the marketing community posts something really nice. So that's what I would say. I would say avoid the time myth, the time theft myth, QA it. And I forgot what the other one was. I said the first thing, but yeah.
Awesome. And there's a lot of kind of headlines out there, or like kind of like opinions or rhetoric about like, if you create ads, you're going to be obsolete in 6 months, kind of thing. What would you say to that?
I don't know, man. Damn. If you make ads, you'll be obsolete in 6 months. I don't know for sure. I feel like they've been saying that every 6 months for the last 24 months. I don't know. Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not entirely sure. But like I said, 6 months ago, it was completely different. And it's like an accelerating pace at which this is developing. I'm not gonna sit here and do like a futurism and like, navel gazing kind of AI stuff. I hope it stays as but I know by the time I get really complacent, it's going to be something else.
Hmm. Yeah. Yet another case for like using AI to automate so that you have time to stay on the the front wave of what's next.
Yeah,
I'm curious. I know you your agency is fairly young, since May, but what are some of the toughest lessons that you've learned so far?
probably underpricing myself for sure. Like my first few clients, I thought I'm a closer. I'm Alec Baldwin and Glengarry Grinwell. I'm just a closer. I can sell ice to an Eskimo. Blah 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 blah. And then like I get on a couple call. I'm talking to a couple other agency owners telling them my prices, and they're like, "Dude, you're like 10% of what we charge." I'm like, what? And I'm like, okay, this is anyway. So that was a real gut punch. Like my prices were way too low, but I think in dollars per hour, and it's, like I said, with the AI maxing now, so yeah, definitely undervaluing myself. Which anyway, that was pretty much it. I think at this point, I'm sure there's stuff every day, like some clients not liking you for certain things, like that you didn't even think about. There's things like the managerial stuff, different tax stuff, that kind of things. But yeah, nothing major that, like, to be honest, like I'm still asking questions in like the Foxwell group every day or every week, depending what channel you're looking in about these kind of things. So yeah, I'll try to stay as humble as possible in that regard.
So what have been, I know in the time that you've had your agency, like what's worked well for you as far as growing it, acquiring clients?
Honestly, look, my first few clients are literally just word of mouth referrals. Like I'm friends with a lot of people who do aggressive real estate work, and they're obsessed with networking. Oh, just to tell as many people what you're doing, what you're working on. As well, even the guy at the gas station, tell him. I'm like, okay, I'm not that extreme, but just a lot of just classic reaching out to people who I've worked with in the past. Just classic messaging people on LinkedIn who kind of like the work I did for them in 2019, stuff like that. Asking what they're up to. So, after maybe 200 LinkedIn messages, I got a lot of like shockingly high number of clients. I'm really surprised. I was almost kicking myself. I should have started it way longer ago. 'Cause that was the biggest obstacle to me when I was full time. I'm like, "Man, I should start my own thing at some point, but I don't know how I'd get clients. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do." Turned out it's a couple LinkedIn messages went a really long way.
Nice. Nice. What are a few specific trends that you're leaning into here in the coming year?
Trends, trying to think. Obviously, all this AI stuff. Something I do want to, and this guy Jess Bachman said something really smart, is like not chasing shiny object syndrome. Because I think every time you go on Twitter, you're going to see this new AI tool and then memes about the old AI tool. And it's like, it's very tempting to just like stop what you're doing and try a new AI tool. And I was like, that's how I feel. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to stick with what I'm doing that's working. I'll be mindful of these new things that are coming up, but if we're making clients tons and tons of money and doing this, the process I call I'm doing the old process, and old means May 2025. It's like outdated. That's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think I'm gonna try to not chase shiny object syndrome. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a big problem for people in the AI niche. I know it's super hypocritical of me saying, "Hey, be an AI maxer," but then like, "Oh, don't chase shiny object, don't chase shiny object syndrome, bro." I know. I think finding that balance is going to be very key. I think just look at it. Hey, what problems can I solve? What solves my problem? I don't need all the bells and whistles and the cutest little thing that I can show people on Twitter. That's how I'd think about it.
Yeah, that's I use the term like selective exploration because I know a lot of times those of us in digital, our superpower is we're curious and we figure things out because like no one went to school for this, and
Yeah,
it changes so quickly that adapting and learning quickly is a superpower. But you can see how that, like you brought up, like how can easily, like especially when you see shiny objects coming at you, new ones every day, it's easy to latch on. And so I don't think I agree with you. I don't think you don't put your head in the sand, but I think you need to. It's a discipline, of being
yeah,
selective exploration and like knowing your sources, or like yeah, let's say being really focused on I want to solve this one problem and is this show promise and then invest in it. But I think that's yeah, it's discipline that is the key. But I would agree with you. I think that's probably going to be just because the volume and how quickly things are changing is just at a level we haven't seen yet.
absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it. Other
Yeah.
trends, like from a creative strategy standpoint, there's more creative strategy, Twitter arguments, but just my takes on some of these things, like the volume versus quality debate. There is this thing now with the AI prompting. I think we're gonna have the other issue. We have a lot of AI slop, AI volume maxing, where it's like now every agency really, I think in the next 6 months, we can do crazy volume. We can do crazy volume, which yeah, we can do too, but quality. So that's something like when I'm training a new creative strategist, I try to like, make quality first. I don't get like use the Claude, maybe like whatever. Learn how to make quality first, and then once you know quality, you can scale quantity much easier. And then in terms of volume, another guy, Matt Gattazzi, was just talking about something today with me on a group call. But he's like, hey, like all this, like everyone can do volume now with Gen AI, but so you're going to have to focus on creative ops a lot better. Like how well your production studio is, how well your team is, your graphic designers are. Those should be crucial too in the age of AI creative volume maxing. So those are some of the things I think for the year make a lot of sense to be looking at, especially in the ad creative strategy side of performance marketing. And I imagine these principles, avoiding shiny object syndrome, making sure you can operationally handle more volume from whatever AI outputs you're doing. I think those can carry into some other parts of marketing too.
Yeah, I think you started to touch on something I think would be worth doing is I know you have a team. Yeah, what have been some keys for like, training them on your system and
Oh, yeah.
get them up and running and functional?
I'll be honest, this is where like I'll sound super cocky and this will like delve into the guru hype, whatever. But I hired some people that like I don't really care too. I'm very confident in my systems and my training system. Like some of the people I've trained, they're actually richer than me and by a mile. Like they're making tens of millions of dollars a year, and I'm like, man, what the hell am I doing? But basically, like, especially the creative strategy system, it's such a simple system. It's like I'll send you a link to it. It's like 4 slides in a Google slide deck. And it's if any ad creative checks all 4 of these criteria, the win rate's extremely high, almost 50%. And that's a crazy thing to say. There's creative strategists listening to that, like, he's full of it. I'll show you. If you can DM me, I'll show you a screenshot. But basically, it's if you have all four of these, we are seeing extremely high wins. So I had a junior creative strategist. She didn't really do a static image concept before. She was like a UGC creator. And this is on a big account where we're competing with a massive agency, one of the best agencies, supposed best agencies in the world. And I'm like, okay, cool. Do this system, make some static ads, but follow my system. And she makes the static ads and they're destroying this other agency. They're making the client tens of thousands of dollars a day in ad spend and then revenue. It's just crazy. I'm like, whoa, this was like in September or October or something like that. It was like around end of Q3, early Q4. I'm just like, this is a really good system. Like, it validated what I kind of already knew. But like, I hate this analogy. It's going to sound so cringe. But it's like, oh, I'm Tom Brady. And whether you're Randy Moss or Julian Edelman or Danny Amendola, you're going to look like an all-star in my system. Look, like I said, my friend, I don't know if I said it on this podcast or when we had the call earlier, my friend Dookie Hong, a celebrity chef, he says all the time, best recipe is one you can do when you're drunk. And I'm like, oh, that's so funny. I should do that. It's true for business, though. You need a good, simple business process you can do, not drunk, but like, you have clients yelling at you, you have babies screaming in the background, you have deadlines, you have pressure. Anyone can do it under whatever pressure. You could just spin something up, like a client calls you at 2 a.m. screaming at you, which I've had. And once, that's how good this process and this system is. Like, it's a really good system, nice and simple. It's not the perfect system. It's not the most in-depth. There are a lot of brilliant creative strategists with more in-depth systems that serve them really well. But this is something you can kind of take a graphic designer who has never done creative strategy before. And this is something I did in the last few months. You can take a graphic designer who has never actually thought of the ideation side of the ads. You just kind of run them through this system. Just explain these 4 marketing points for them. If it doesn't have all 4 of these criteria, you just redo it. And the results are really good. It's crazy. So I think the simple systems, and that comes from, I think a lot of agencies have a really good subject matter expert, and really good subject matter experts are great at explaining complex things simply.
Yes.
And if you're not doing that right now, that's how I think what a true expert is. They can make a bad person look great. Or not even bad, but like, I'm not trying to say my people are bad, but like, if the mentality is good, they can make them great. Like, that's why I use Tom Brady as an example with his small, bad wide receivers. But like, that's been absolutely key for us. And that's why we're able to get good results, because we have a really good system.
Yeah, that's good. I think those simple fundamentals and mastering those and training those. And I know a lot of times here, you want to look at personality, or like if someone is a quick learner and they're hungry, but you can teach them the tools that they need. Yeah, that's great. And I 100% agree. I think I've studied and been with people and so, experts are high level in any industry or field, and they do make complex ideas and things simple that you can understand. And then that can be replicated. That's something that can be transferred to their team, and simple does scale. So I love the way you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. One final thing, what's one piece of advice that you give to all the founders out there looking, who are listening to this?
Man, so like I said, I'll caveat, been a founder for 6 months. They're listening to this, laughing at this, like, what the hell is this guy talking about? He has no right. And they're probably right for the most part. I would say raise your prices. And I would say, just don't be afraid of whatever these like time theft myths of AI maxing is. Like, I would be as shameless as possible about it's going to serve you much better than being very scared to implement it, which a lot of people listening is like that. Yeah, that's a no brainer. But there are still people out there with really big teams that have a lot of ad spend, and I see them. They talk to me. They're very seriously bottlenecked because they have those kind of mental little decision blockers they don't want to do.
And if our audience wants to learn more about you and your agency, where's the best place to find you online?
Laughingheartmedia.com, or honestly, just Eric Philippou on LinkedIn. It's an easy way to get to me. I think on Twitter too. I think it's Eric_Philippou on Twitter. And otherwise, if you're in the Foxwell Founders group, if you're not in the Foxwell Founders membership, join. I'm not affiliated. It's like the most absurdly high ROI thing you can do if you're a performance marketer. But also, I'm in there all the time talking. Like, I help people for free all the time, and like do consulting calls for them all the time, and just walk them through whatever systems, because so many people in that group and it's just the industry have done the same for me. So yeah, that's where people could find me, or us, whoever you want to call us.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Eric, this has been great. Thanks for sharing all those just golden nuggets and just seeing like where the future, and working more efficiently and effectively can take you. So thanks for joining us on the podcast today. And for everyone tuning in from the gym, in your car, or at your desk, thanks for joining us. And if this episode was helpful for you, be sure to subscribe and share it with another agency founder who needs to hear it, because agencies don't rise alone, they rise together. This is Agency Rise.